This episode is brought to you by our sponsor, LOTR Gaming. LOTR Gaming is your site for gifts and gaming accessories like dice, playmats, and other items to bling out your games. Use the promo code META for 10% off your order. Find us on YouTube at Eldorado Gaming TX or our home site at eldoradogaming.com. Here at My Mythical Meta, we talk about gaming with friends and strangers, resolving conflicts, and keeping game nights fun, interesting, and recurring. Our game of choice is Magic the Gathering, but our hope is that what we share is relevant for board gamers, RPG groups, video gamers, and maybe even your poker night. I'm Travis, and with my brother Benjamin and my friends Derek and Randy, we've been playing Magic together since 2014. The secret to a healthy meta is not in the game you play, it's being good friends. Subscribe to My Mythical Meta, presented by Eldorado Gaming, wherever you get your podcasts. Welcome back to My Mythical Meta, sponsored by Eldorado Gaming. My name is Travis, and I'm joined this week by the entire My Mythical Meta crew. We've got Benjamin.
Hello.
We've got Derek.
Hey.
We've got Randy.
Howdy.
Everyone is here, and this week we are going to remember our why. All of the teachers are back in school, school's back in session, and everyone needs a little bit of motivation about why they do the things we do. And so we are going to remember our why this week. We're going to talk about why people play games. What do you guys think about that?
Sounds great.
Yeah. Let's roll.
It's going to be good. All right.
I mean, it's a quick episode. They're fun. Close it down.
Quick episode. They're fun. We do it for a good time.
Nice and tight, in bed by 10.
All right. Night, everybody.
Very good. All right, close it up. That's it. No. So there are lots of reasons why people play games, and a lot of them will overlap, but then you will find people with differing reasons about why they join, about why they come together. That's what we're going to talk about today, is all the different reasons why people play.
And because we're remembering our why, Travis, why are we asking about our why? Why does this matter?
When we look inward and we do a little introspection, we can make moves toward maximizing our own joy. You know, Marie Kondo had that show Tidying Up, and it's about eliminating what does not spark joy for you and keeping the things that do spark joy. If you know what you like, then that means you can make decisions that reduce your risk of disappointment. You can avoid things that you already know ahead of time won't bring you joy. And then, once you know yourself, you discuss your preferences with your entire meta, with all of the other people that you normally play games with. And then you find the cross-section where your interests intersect. When you and your friends find joy in the same things, that's where you go to pick your games and pick your activities for things that your group will like.
Love it. Let's dive in.
That's the point here, is you can contribute to a healthy meta by knowing yourself, by looking inward and seeing what you really enjoy. No one wants a grouch at the game table. So if you're going to be grumpy and not having fun with the game they're playing, then nobody's going to want you there.
Can I throw one more thing in there?
Yeah.
You did mention finding out other people's why and what they're into so that y'all can have a game that overlaps. This also helps you, if you know what your friends like, why they play games, this helps you find the right games to teach them and how to teach them. And we had an episode about that. If you have not listened to that episode, I recommend going back and listening to how to teach your game. But this is a good place to start, is knowing why your friends play games. That will help you reach them and spark their interest.
Every episode we've had so far has discussed the idea of actually being friends with the people you're playing games with. You should know them, and you should get to know them and their interests and their preferences. Once you've done this inner look about why you enjoy games, make sure to listen and adjust and compromise when your friends tell you why they like certain games or why they like to play games together. Randy is going to kick us off with number one. Our first reason for why we play games is to spend time with friends. Randy, tell us about this motivation for game playing.
I mean, that's been my main motivation for probably most of my life. That's the reason why I got into Magic. I got into Magic because I enjoyed hanging out with y'all. That's what y'all were doing. So I was like, well, I'll adopt this. And, since then, it's grown. I play for my own reasons now as well. But it's also one of those things, like, if we stopped playing, I would just stop playing if y'all weren't part of it. I have no urge to go play with random people in this particular game. Other things maybe, but for this, it's about the social aspect for me and getting to spend time with y'all and, just kind of catch up and get some canes.
Yeah, absolutely. Usually before we play, we meet at Raising Cane's for dinner.
Not a sponsor.
Not a
but
sponsor.
Can be.
Not yet.
Just a cool
But
product.
I'd be happy.
Listen,
I'll do anything.
Reach out to us. Post Malone. Give me a call. Happy to set up a deal there. Yeah, a lot of people will spend time with their friends regardless. And so games are just a vehicle for that. And there's a whole class of games that do this. Party games. Cards Against Humanity, Cranium, Monikers. These are all games where if you weren't playing them, you would probably still be sitting around laughing anyway. It's just a way to structure the time that a group spends together. Now, role-playing games and other games can, of course, fill this niche too. Just about all games can do this. They facilitate the time you spend together. Is there a lot to talk about in this category? That people play games in order to spend time with friends and catch up?
I don't know if there's a lot to talk about as far as expanding on the premise, but I think it's first in our outline because it's the most important, I think.
Absolutely, yeah.
If we're a podcast about gaming and friendship, then we play games to spend times with friends. We do it with family. I think we mentioned that in our episode about gaming and who we are. We talked about being a gaming family. It's how our family chose to experience each other and find joy together and build relationship. So spending time with friends is easy and easy to gloss over, but even though we're going to spend a lot more time talking about other things and other reasons people play games, I think it always comes back to this one because games were created in the beginning so that people could spend time with each other. Right? That's the whole purpose.
Yeah, that makes total sense. That the whole reason we're talking about this is to make sure that the time you spend with friends is spent in the best way so that everyone is getting enjoyment from it. Not just, like I've said many times, we don't hold our friends hostage so that we can enjoy a game. We want everybody to have fun. Okay, the next category that I put, and I think Benjamin, you, and Derek, you too, will probably find a lot to latch onto here. We play games to exercise our mind, to feel challenged or to feel like we've unlocked something or to solve a puzzle. And Derek, I listed escape rooms and murder mysteries and puzzles here especially for you. Can you tell us what it kind of feels like when you pick escape rooms or when you make a deck in Magic, that experience of exercising your mind?
It's all kind of like solving a puzzle. I don't know how to describe the feeling. It's just kind of like, it's almost like painting a picture using a bunch of different random colors and brush strokes. And then by the time you're finished, you've got this beautiful piece of artwork. You're like, wow, I did this. I created this piece of art, or I've solved this, complicated puzzle that, other people may not, it just makes me feel good, makes me feel smart, that kind of stuff.
That's how I feel after I make a Magic deck that I'm really proud of. I usually describe the idea I have as a brain blast, which is from Jimmy Neutron, that old Nickelodeon cartoon, where he just has a eureka moment where all of the pieces suddenly fit together. And that always feels really good for me whenever I'm deck building. Or in an escape room when I finally have the clue that we were missing in order to make something make sense. Like, I love that eureka feeling of discovering something and having it all come together.
Yeah, it's great. Sometimes I'll be laying in bed and I'll have an idea for like a deck or something. I'm like, I gotta get up and write this down real quick.
Yeah. Benjamin, how about you?
I think I've mentioned on multiple episodes how I have a history of being a min-maxer. And this is why. Because to me, deck building, character creation, and those sorts of things are about solving the puzzle, right? How can I make this character the most extreme it could be, right? What flaws am I going to have to role play? What bonuses am I going to have to give up so that I can do that thing, so that I can be the best, I can play this role or whatever it is to the max. And it's why my decks tend to be pretty good, is because I won't start with the typical template for deck building. I start with an idea, something I want to accomplish, and then every card in the deck works toward that goal, right?
Yeah.
And I'm trying to make it do that thing. And same thing with characters. One way I've kind of mitigated the min-maxing while still doing this sort of logic puzzle thing is I want to figure out how to make the numbers on the page most closely represent an actual personality, someone in real life or something like that. So if y'all are listening to the podcast, this group is recently, we're going on an adventure in role-playing and trying the World of Darkness system. And we've been building characters, and I've just been building a bunch of real life people or pop culture figures, and that doesn't necessarily lead to min-maxing, right? But how can I, it's a puzzle. Each person is how can manipulate these numbers so that it represents, so that character would play out like the real life person is. And to me, that's awesome. When we're talking about other games, poker, one of the big ones that I've been into is Suburbia over the last month and a half. Those are the same thing, right? You're trying to figure out how can you build this? How can you craft the perfect city? How can you win all the chips? And each puzzle is different, but trying to put it all together in a way that, like Derek says, it does the thing, it reaches the goal, it achieves something that maybe hasn't been achieved before. Yeah, makes me feel smart. I like feeling smart.
Yeah, exactly.
I personally love the feeling.
Yeah.
I can't imagine anybody who doesn't. To have a vehicle, something that reassures you that you did something right. I mean, we talked about in our Teaching Your Game episode that everyone loves a small victory. When something you've thought of works out the way you planned, that feels good. And that dopamine rush, it's going to have you continue returning to that game over and over again if it feels good when you play it. So that one was exercising our mind. I do feel a responsibility to say that some people play games to exercise their body.
Who are those people?
Exercise their actual physical meat sack that they pilot around this world.
Show offs.
Actually, I think that's Derek.
I think that's Derek. You are our
It is
expert
me.
right now in body exercising. Tell us about why you are enjoying pickleball. This is why we couldn't record tomorrow and we had to record today.
Tuesdays for pickleball, baby. I don't know. It's just like so much fun. Well, on one hand, I am spending time with friends and family playing, and it just feels good. Like I'm bettering myself. I feel I'm having fun playing, but it's also making my body faster, it's stronger while having fun. I've been to gyms and I've worked out in weights. It's always so boring. I never stick with it because I'm just like, oh boy, let me lift this weight over and over and over and then go home and do it again tomorrow. But this one, the first time we played, I was, huffing and puffing, just dying, laying down, all that stuff. And now, I'm playing, we're getting 3 games in an evening. Don't need any breaks. Don't need to sit down. Don't need to do anything. That's after 3-4 weeks, and it's been great. I love it. I feel like I'm getting healthier, if you could feel that way.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. I think back to my time in high school when I was in marching band, and I remember feeling really good, having less muscle pain and sleeping better. The same was true whenever I worked at Buffalo Trail Scout Ranch. Like, just working hard in an actual literal physical sense with your body, it feels good. Like, you sleep good and you're just pushing those endorphins through your body when you work out and when you eat well. And so, yeah, I definitely get that. I think the rest of us could all benefit from a little more physical activity in our lives.
I'd love for y'all to play pickleball. I need more people to play pickleball so I can play more often.
I wish I should insert a cricket sound effect there.
That's what I was about to add. I was like, man, if you had
Let's
that
not all jump
soundboard.
to it. Let's
Yeah.
not all jump to it. I actually played yesterday, and last
Addict.
night and today I'm like super sore. But it's like a good kind of sore. Like,
Oh,
man,
yeah.
that's a job well done. Even when I just recently planted a bunch of bushes, and I've been fighting to keep them alive.
The saga
and so far,
of
so
Derek's
good.
fence hedges.
Yeah, but like, man, I was out there digging the holes, spreading the mulch, all that stuff. And I mean, I was out there for maybe 6 hours all together and just soaked from this Texas sun. And going inside and like after you take a shower, you're like, man, that was some really good work. I feel really good about myself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sore, but it's a good kind of sore that I'm proud of.
For real, I think back to the time I worked at BTSR for summer camp, and I don't think I've ever slept as good as I do the summers that I lived out there.
Yeah, just hit the mattress and you're out till the next day.
Rather than tossing and turning every single night like I do now. I think exercise would do us all a lot of good. So if you're listening, don't completely neglect your body. Consider finding a game that can help you exercise your body too. Maybe, Randy, you should get into carpentry and start making, your dioramas and terrains and stuff.
Well, as the only one that's here that doesn't have a house, that's easier said than done. So
I'll get into carpentry with
just
you.
get a storage unit.
Oh, pay more money?
Who knows?
You buy the supplies.
What you got to do is
there
gamify
you
your
go.
workouts. Just gamify the workout.
That is actually great.
Go to
advice. Keep
LOTR
going.
Gaming, buy a D20, and then assign a different exercise for different numbers. There you go. Gamify it. So every day you get home, you roll it, and gotta go for a 5-mile bike ride. All right, saddle up.
That is a very self-serving idea, which I support wholeheartedly. Go to ElDoradoGaming.com. Find something that works out well for you. But there are apps that can gamify your workouts for you, which I think is a reason why, in addition to being a cult, I think that's why Peloton is so successful. Like, obviously they're going to get you because of all the cult strategies, but it gamifies and tracks your physical. Oh, okay, here's a better example. Pokemon Go.
Yes.
Can gamify
phenomenon.
your exercise. All of the walking around and all of the moving around your community you're doing, well, now there's a purpose and a goal for it each time, and the number of steps you're getting is mattering in a different way, so it's tricking your brain into giving you a reason to do those things.
There's also like free things online you can do for like RPG your life kind of things, and it's just another way to gamify working out. Or even like setting goals, keeping track of like your personal stats.
That sounds fun. I should try to find one of those. So don't neglect your body. Find a way to get some more exercise in, and that is certainly a reason for gaming. And guys, it should go without saying, but of course, any other organized sport like baseball, football, basketball, all of those people are playing the game to feel good about their body and the strength they've gained from doing it. It's not what we do, but whatever works for some people, whatever floats their boat. Anybody want to add anything to that category?
I wish I could go and live that summer that Pokemon Go came out. Just relive that. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was crazy.
That was like the best of humanity.
I was
everyone
doing tons of walking around my neighborhood for
Yeah,
that. I mean, Pokemon Go's still up. It's still popular. Anybody can get back into it.
But I think it's like really
not too late.
Pay to win now.
I wouldn't say so.
I have heard that, yeah.
A lot of microtransactions.
I think there's a lot of microtransactions, but it's more like if you don't live somewhere where you can get like a continuous flow of Pokestop spins and get your daily Pokeballs and stuff like that, that's when you need to bust out the old credit card.
Man, when I lived in Houston, I lived in such a good spot for Pokemon Go. So it's cool that we got to Pokemon, because my next category was to express ourselves and our creativity.
Yes.
And Pokemon was one of the first, it might have been the first video game I ever played. I remember being in the 3rd grade, getting a Game Boy and Pokemon Red. And all of those creatures, I don't know why it is, but I feel emotionally connected to some and not to others. And then other people out there feel the same way about different Pokemon. So we express ourselves and our creativity through the games we play. Randy, what do you want to... Let's have you start us off for this one.
Yeah, I mean, I use, like in terms of Magic, I think when I'm deck building, I try to find something that's unique. Not in the same way that like Benjamin does with like puzzles. I sometimes try to find like odd combinations in terms of like, oh, well, this is like a type that you don't see very often, like shrines. Yeah. I had an idea to do a shrine deck for a long time, and then they made a shrine commander, and everyone hopped on that bandwagon. But I like to find...
I didn't believe in it, and he proved me wrong.
Yeah.
Man, I didn't believe in it either, and that deck is a truck.
Yeah. And then also through playing games that have miniatures, getting to pick which miniature you want, to either represent yourself or the army you're piloting, for like Warhammer. Yeah, you could follow the box instructions, but I think it's fun to make everything different, and you can really pick the colors you want. You can give this character a backstory if you want on like why he has this weapon of this color or, whatever. And I think, painting minis for a game is a good way to express your creativity and yourself.
I totally agree. You were mentioning how you can change. You don't have to follow the box's painting instructions for your miniatures. And when you said that, I just started grinning ear to ear because I can look on my shelf at my great unclean one, who's just a big, flabby, disease-ridden demon, and mine does not look like the box at all. The colors on his sword are different. The colors of his intestines dripping from his oozy pustules are all different from the box, and it was just a really neat experience painting that. So yeah, I definitely feel the same way.
I've really enjoyed watching. There's some people that I watch on like Instagram to further customize. They'll even take the miniature, cut it in half or do something with it to make it look more damaged. There's a guy on there online somewhere. I can't remember what his name is right now. But he does stuff where it looks like characters have been like cut in half by like plasma swords. So their armor is like glowing white hot at the cut line, or they'll have like a piece of their arm taken off by like a blaster bolt, that exploded it, but it's all like really white hot looking at that center point. And then he does a really good job. And it's like, no, that's not how it's supposed to be, but really getting to express a story, that you just kind of pull out of your mind, and it's really cool stuff.
Yeah. Derek, I always liked how whenever we played Pokemon, the way that you would come up with nicknames for your guys.
Yeah.
You would name them after like mythological figures or monsters or stuff like that, which is a way to show your creativity and the things you're interested in through your Pokemon team.
Yeah. It's even funnier because because we had played that around the same time like all the Transformers movies came out.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of my Pokemon would end up having the same names as some Transformers, like Rampage, or I don't know, other kind of stuff like that. I can't remember any of them anymore.
Oh, I have a lot. I have like Warp Speed, Doomsday, just a bunch of nicknames that sound like Transformer Autobots.
Yeah.
Benjamin, anything you want to add here about expressing ourselves and our creativity through a game?
Yeah, this is actually the number one reason I play games these days. Yeah, the mind exercise is great and all, but once you have decided, maybe you've solved enough puzzles or whatever, but sometimes I just want to tell the story like y'all were saying. And that's one of the reasons that we actually started Eldorado Gaming, is because through the desire to express myself, I kind of became a dice goblin. And
yeah, finding the right dice to portray the image of the character you're playing or the game you're playing, things like that.
Yeah. And it's not just dice for me. It's playmats, sleeves, deck boxes, coins, all the things that go into a normal game of Magic. For me, I just love, all the special counters and all that.
Oh, sure,
and a great example of this is not too long ago, I made a Ragavan deck, and, it has kind of a pirate sub-theme, so I got me a pirate playmat, and I got me some pirate coin to represent treasures and all these things, and just really made it like, hey, I'm a pirate monkey coming to steal your stuff. And
your Ragavan deck has no business being as good as it is either.
I mean, it serves the dual purpose of exercising my mind. I get to min-max it, and
Sure.
I get to express myself, right? And I think that's one of the great things about RPGs in general. Like y'all were talking about Pokemon, but like the Dungeons and Dragons, and is that you get to do both. You can find something that represents yourself while you're min-maxing. Like that is like the perfect overlap of why I play games. And so those are the things that really get me hooked. That's one of the things I liked about Gundam Battle.
Yes. I loved how you could pick the pieces from your favorite suits.
Yeah.
And create your own mobile suit.
Yeah, and whenever they introduced skins, at first I kind of hated it because I was like, man, now you don't have to choose between a good suit and a suit that looks the way you want it. You could pick any suit and give it the stats of other parts. After about a month of playing with it, I was totally hooked on that, because what I loved about this, I could min-max the parts, focus on upgrading specific things, and then I could make it look however I wanted. And to me, it served that purpose, right? It scratched the itch. I exercised my mind and was able to express myself. And I love the way that my Gundams ended up looking in that game.
Dude, that's the mission statement of Gundam. Gunpla is freedom.
It's freedom. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
That is like the mission statement, the mantra that is on all of their merch. You know, they've made entire anime series about the act of gunpla building. And so reflecting that freedom in the games they make, I think is a really smart choice.
Yeah, I agree. And it's great when you go online and people are talking about the way they do it and kind of start ragging on people for doing it differently. You'll always see people come up in the comments and say, hey, gunpla is freedom. If they want to play that way, let them play that way.
I love when the audience adopts that ethos of saying winning is not the only reason to play a game, which is what we're talking about today. Gunpla is freedom. People can play the game however they choose to.
Yeah.
Cool. So our next reason is about experiencing teamwork. Again, we can talk about real life sports here. It's a bunch of people trying to get a ball into a different sized net. I don't know. Did y'all ever see?
That's what's great about baseball.
There's no net. Sports people trying to score sports points with a sports ball. Let's talk about some real games. Pandemic.
That's a man's game.
Exactly. This is a game that is so well thought out. I wanted to make sure to bring it up in this week's episode because every person has a role to play, and it's impossible to win the game alone. That's one of my favorites. What teamwork games do you guys want to talk about?
I mean, if we're talking about games, Baldur's Gate 3 has co-op, and it's a lot of fun.
Are you co-oping with anybody?
I was the first day. I've been trying to... I want to experience the whole story and then goof off with friends.
Oh, okay. Is the co-op in Baldur's Gate 3 like Divinity, where you have to start a game together? Or can people just drop in and drop out?
People can drop in and drop out at any time, but if you want a... It's like if you want your own unique character, you have to do that at character creation at the start of the game.
Okay. Okay.
But if I started up, you guys could join as the NPCs and just play as those guys.
Ooh, that's
cool.
exciting.
Yeah.
That's really neat. That I could just come in and be Astarion for a while.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I didn't know that was a feature.
There's this really great co-op game called Kill Shakespeare.
Boo.
I think Kristen's played that before, or maybe I've heard of it or something. I don't
Derek,
know.
we tried to play it, and it was awful. Remember?
Oh, is that what that was? That board game that's like
3 hours for round one?
Yeah.
That's right. You weren't there when we
That's what it
recorded that
was.
episode.
Yeah.
My God,
Yeah.
Kill Shakespeare is awful.
I knew it triggered something in my brain.
Yeah.
You had blocked it out.
Your tadpole
Yeah.
started reacting.
Yeah.
Oh,
Authority.
what was that? A command
But
of
it-
presence.
On a more serious note, I have this really cool game called Legends of Andor.
Yeah, that's cool. That is a cool game because me and Kristen and you and Sarah played it.
Yeah.
That Star Wars?
No, it long before I ever heard of Andor in Star Wars.
Yeah, it,
Oh, okay.
it was long before Andor came out. But it's called Legends of Andor, and it's like playing a D&D game, except it's a
Yeah, you've
board
got your
game,
warrior,
and, each,
your
and each
wizard.
person is assigned a role. So you have a role card,
Oh, okay.
and then you do those roles and take action throughout the country of Andor, or the forest, or the caves, or whatever mission you're playing.
Yeah, and you try to defend the castle or defeat the dragon or stop the rampaging wolves or whatever the story is. There's like 6 or 7 different missions that
Yeah.
you can undertake that each have goals, but in order to win, everyone's got to level up, get the right gear, get the defeat a certain number of monsters, etc. And it's actually kind of hard, and everyone needs to kind of be on their toes to make it work.
Because I think we played that game, 3 times?
Yeah.
Is that how many times we played it? And
I mean, I've played it a lot, so
okay. Well, with us.
yeah.
With
I don't
with
remember.
us it was 3. But every game kind of came down to the wire. You had to play tight. It was fun.
Yeah.
In order to beat the board, which is what Pandemic and Marvel Legendary, there's a whole class of games like this where the board does things on its own, the game does things, and then all of the players have to work together against it. I really want to try out that Cthulhu Death May Die game.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds fun.
Obviously,
I don't know anything about
because
it.
of all of its miniatures, which I've talked about before, that's something that gets me into games. But it is another cooperative game like that, where the board acts on its own, and you have to you and your teammates have to work together.
Yeah, there's another
So I
one
really
called
wanna try that
War of
out.
the Ring. War of the Ring. If y'all have y'all played that?
Is that Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, it's Lord of the Rings, and you're trying to get the ring to Mordor, and you go through all the different stuff, but things are constantly attacking you. You get characters from the movie or from the books, and then you have to sometimes spend them. Players can die, all this stuff. I don't know that I've ever actually won a game of War of the Ring, which makes
Do you
sense.
have it,
kind of
or have you only played it
no,
elsewhere?
I've only played it elsewhere, but I there was a time where we played it a lot. But the thing is, the game represents exactly how hard it is to actually succeed,
Mhm.
and so most games you lose. So
Dang.
yeah, there's another classic
Before we do
game.
that, you mentioned Lord of the Rings, and my brain kind of fuzzed out after last weekend.
Yeah.
So, listeners, last weekend was my birthday, and for my birthday, it was me and these 3 guys, and then some family members and my 1-year-old daughter. But we decided to hunker down and watch all 3 extended versions of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. We had a whole smorgasbord of Middle-earth themed food. I told everybody that the theme was to make sure you've eaten something every 2 hours. Just be full and happy like hobbits as we watch the story. But ever since then, like, I've tried to get back to reading the book too, since that's why I wanted to watch the movies in the first place. And it's just kind of statics out. I think I'm on Lord of the Rings overload.
Yeah.
It's been I dreamt about it that night.
Yeah.
I dreamt about it Sunday night. I've been thinking about it. I've been beat over the head with Lord of the Rings, and I love it.
Didn't you say you wanted to make a couple of magic decks with them?
Yeah, I think it would be really fun
Yeah.
to make some. I was actually on EDH Rec looking at possible commanders.
Yeah.
That could be fun.
Okay, sorry to interrupt. Go ahead, Benjamin.
Yeah, no problem. You mentioned these beat the board. There's a similar class of games where it's Arch Enemy, where it's 3-on-1.
Mm-hmm.
Pandemic has a version of that with the bioterrorist.
That's right.
I think I've mentioned a game in a previous episode called Fury of Dracula. There's
I love Last Night on Earth.
mhm.
Yeah.
I love being the zombie player. That is
Yeah.
just so much fun. Last Night on Earth, I think I played that once or twice in college. And then, Derek, we went through a phase
Yeah, we were playing a
with
lot.
Randy and Kristen.
Yeah.
Oh, we should bust that out again.
I still have it.
Yes, I still want to paint the rest of the miniatures for that, because I think I painted
Oh,
one.
yeah.
I think I painted one like troop of zombies.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that.
Yes, that'll be fun.
And one nice thing about those is it can scratch 2 itches. You can experience teamwork, and you can exercise your mind or be the loner that wants to win. And different people can experience that same game in different ways, so you can reach across, oh, you play for teamwork but you don't really like teamwork, have I got the game for you.
Absolutely. That one person who doesn't care to be on a team with other people, you can say, listen, this is a game where we can all have what we want, because you can be the arch enemy and the rest of us can, fight the man.
Yeah.
Those games usually lend themselves really well to the next item. Some people play games to experience the story of the game. We talked about this in our Teaching Your Game episode 5, that a lot of games come with a story along with them. Some type of overarching theme or set of events that tells a story. I don't know how else to say it. So Magic, of course, does this. The story of 2 enemy sorcerers casting spells and summoning monsters in order to fight each other. Baldur's Gate 3, any RPG that you play, Dungeons and Dragons or anything else, they're going to have a story that's created as part of them. But then, playing Last Night on Earth is going to have a story that plays out through the course of the game. Oh, the zombies did this, and then they crawled through the window and got them there, and then they came up under the ground, and there was nothing anybody could do. Like, those stories are going to come from the game as well.
We as humans just like to tell stories and experience it. Been around since the dawn of time.
I listed Marvel Legendary here because at the beginning of the game, you pick an evil mastermind and a scheme. You can do this randomly, or you can pick things that seem thematically connected. So you can say Red Skull wants to activate the Tesseract. Or you can do things that are completely different. Wasteland Hulk wants to go back in time and kill the hero's ancestors. Like, it can be anything. And then the heroes that you pick in order to create your game, well, that's going to create a different type of story too. You know, what if it's Wasteland Hulk going back in time to kill the hero's ancestors, and it's the X-Men who have to solve the problem. And you can kind of do that in any way you want. I listed Blood Bowl. Randy, you and I have literally played one game of Blood Bowl, but I understood in that game why people like sports. Like, why people like football. Because it came down to the last roll, the last rush of getting the ball into the end zone. Mm-hmm. So that story can light a fire in people so that you end up retelling that same story over the next time you're playing. And lots of our Magic games end up like that too.
Mm-hmm. So I
feel like this was a major category. What'd you say, Derek?
I think I've still got a Lizard Bowl, a Lizard Folk team somewhere for Blood Bowl.
I have 3 or 4 teams that I have. I have the Skaven team, and I have a Dwarf team, and then I have a couple teams that are still in the boxes and I haven't opened.
Yeah. You know, the problem is why we don't play it more often is because it's only 2 people. So
that's actually a major factor for us, is that it's a 2-player game, and so we're always hanging out as 3 or 4. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, now that we have 4, because we were playing this before Benjamin came around, I don't know, there may be some way to make it work with 4, maybe 2v2, or do some kind of bracket system where we all play against each other somehow.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, see, cool. Guys, now we have too many games on our plates.
Ugh. That's true too.
We already have Magic, and then we're
doing a Mage game,
and then we're adding an actual role-playing game that we're going to play together. Anybody who's interested, we're going to be playing a game of Mage: The Ascension. This is a game from White Wolf Publishers. We are using the Old World of Darkness. We are considering recording our sessions. We'll figure that out, and we'll get news out to you in some way.
That's something that I'm looking forward to for the story.
Yeah.
You know, since I've been doing the DM spot for a while, mm-hmm. I'm like craving the chance to just play one character and really like flesh it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I was really enjoying the Strixhaven game you were running, but now that we're doing Mage, I'm like, all right, this is going to be the new thing I'm going to sink my teeth into.
I'm excited, guys. I have several pretty cool ideas for adventures that I'm excited to roll out for y'all.
Cool.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun to record it, and if it's a Fleming pile of dog poo, well, we can just delete the recording.
Yeah, exactly.
And we'll retroactively go back and delete all this. No one can know our shame.
Somebody said, episode 7 was edited 8 months after.
It's weird.
That's weird.
Just a weird break. It's just empty noise. Just nothing there.
It's just 9 minutes of static. I don't know.
And somebody used time magic to erase it all.
Yeah, time magic. So that brings us to our next thing on our list. Some people play games to admire game design. I mentioned last episode that I actually bought a book that treats Magic the Gathering like almost like a college course, that breaks it down to certain competitive concepts like card advantage, you know, who's the beatdown, who's playing defense, and just like the value of a card in reference to the value of a scry and all sorts of stuff like that. It is really fun sometimes to see how a game has decided to represent a concept. There are several games that I listed here. Magic is obviously one. I think we all have an appreciation for Magic's design. I listed Pandemic. The Pandemic label has been put onto lots of different games. There is a Pandemic Fall of Rome. There is a Star Wars Clone Wars that's based off of the Pandemic system. And of course, there are lots of different regional versions of Pandemic where it's still based on diseases. I have Pandemic Iberia. Benjamin and I and our wives have played Pandemic Legacy. So the design of Pandemic has been honed to such a science that it's just a template that you can put onto other things. I included the game Scythe because it's a worker placement game where you have a select number of actions per turn, and each action you take needs to work towards the greater whole, and you're trying to make your nation or your clan reach its final goals through a whole set of options. And Agricola is like this too. So that is certainly a reason why I play games. And usually after my first play of a game, I'll sit back and I'll go, wow, it's really cool how that game captured this feeling. Or how you can still catch up when you're behind because of this mechanic. I was thinking of Terraforming Mars whenever I thought of that comment. I've only played Terraforming Mars 2 or 3 times. But even so, I can say, yes, you need energy, and that energy has to create these other resources, and you have to ration it out in a way that fits your end goals to gain victory points and win. Anybody want to add anything here about admiring game design? Benjamin,
Yeah.
I put Imperial on the list here for you.
Yeah, I saw that because I was just about to mention Imperial. Imperial is not necessarily the greatest game ever, but I love how they took a concept of investing in countries and controlling, not being in it for the country, not being the country's leader, but being, the puppet master behind the scenes, controlling these countries for your own benefit. And I love how they put that into a game, and instead of your typical war games where you play a country and you smash against another country and you try to win. And the design of that game just gets me. I love it.
I forgot to mention, but I was listening to last episode, the one I missed, or I guess it's now 2 episodes ago, the one about teaching your game.
Mm-hmm.
And I was listening to Benjamin talk about Imperial. It sounds like fun. So if ever you want to play sometime, I'd be willing to try it.
Okay.
I could suffer through one more game.
Yeah, Travis has had he had a bad experience last time we played where he invested in a country and made it really good. But the whole thing
and then it was bought out from under me.
Right, someone else paid more money and took
took control, and then I couldn't get it back. So somebody took all of my hard work and then benefited from it.
Yeah, which
reflects the possibilities when you're a billionaire warmonger.
Right.
But the design, I'll still appreciate the design of Imperial. I think it's done really well, and I bet if I played again, I'll just remember to be in it for myself and not for the country.
Yeah.
Yeah. It takes a different type of thinking, especially, and I think I mentioned this last episode too, when you grow up on a game like Risk, where the country's identity is the player's identity. But that's not the case in Imperial. You, the player, and the country have different goals. And ultimately, the one that determines victory is your own goal, not the country's. So, it was pretty cool. I think you would like it, Derek.
Seems like it. I mean, I like playing Risk, Axis and Allies, when you have to manage your economy and
Yeah.
stuff. I mean, those are my bread and butter. I can imagine working as some kind of Illuminati shadow force.
right.
That's exactly
could be
what
pretty
Imperial
fun.
feels like. And even the box art for Imperial is like that. All of these shadowy figures around a table just playing because it's just a game to them.
Yeah.
There's only a couple left. This has come up in every episode too, but there's a class of people for it to admire artwork, craftsmanship, and lore. I mentioned Blood Rage in that episode, Warhammer 40k, these games with cool miniatures, these games with cool art. These are things that get people invested. And so I love to read up on the lore behind games. I'm one of those RPG players who will buy role-playing game books even if I never play it. So I have lots of lore books for World of Darkness games, despite the fact that I'm only going to play Mage of the Ascension with you guys, and I didn't play World of Darkness for probably 10 years. That didn't stop me from gathering these books because I like looking at the artwork and the lore behind them.
Yeah, actually, I think I'm the same way. I think a lot of those World of Darkness books you have are the ones that I bought when I was in high school. And I was so invested.
The old World of Darkness stuff I have from you, and the new World of Darkness stuff I got for myself. But
right. But I mean, I bought all those books and never. Mm-hmm. I think I have all the vampire stuff. I have Changeling. I think I had Werewolf, and of course I had some of the side material. I didn't play any of those games.
You didn't have Werewolf? I managed to find Werewolf at at a comic book store for like $30.
I think I remember. I think I was there when that happened.
Yeah, I think you were with me. Because
it was like a huge
amazing.
deal. Because it's like,
oh yeah,
it was like
so
hard to find.
Because if you look on eBay, it's like $200 now
Yeah.
for Werewolf Apocalypse.
Yeah. Well, I know. I remember
you
I
just can't
had.
find 'em anywhere.
I had. What's it called? Land of Nod.
Yeah, the Book of Nod. Oh,
the Book of Nod.
Such a gorgeous book. Like, there's no game mechanics in it at all. It's just a collection of vampire poetry and stories.
Yeah,
really,
and I bought.
Really cool.
And I think I had Vampire the Masquerade. I've never played that game in my life. I had Changeling, never played it before. And so I'm right there with you, buying the role playing game books just because of the world that they create. I think it's awesome.
And I do like to look at the mechanics that they use for the game itself. Like beyond just looking at the lore or the story of the game, I do like looking at how they mechanically create characters. For any listeners out there,
the game design.
Yeah, Benjamin and I, since I was in the 6th grade, maybe 8th grade, we have had this idea for a Gundam-based role-playing game. A story-driven game about the dichotomy between a human pilot and a mech suit. And as part of that, I have tried to investigate lots of role-playing games because I want to see mechanics that I like. I want to avoid mechanics I don't like. And, attempting to be a creator involves lots and lots of reading. Authors will tell you the same thing. If you're struggling to be an author, you need to read more. So the same is true if you're trying to design your own game. Well, you should play lots and lots and lots of games.
If Mage goes well, maybe we can dive into Changeling and Vampire the Masquerade.
Yeah, that would be cool too. And that brings us to the one that everybody's been shouting at their phones to get to, the thrill of winning. This is the elephant in the room that nobody had been talking about. Some people just play games to win.
Derek, you want to do this one?
I mean, I can. We all have that albatross on our neck.
Great literary reference.
Thank you. I sit down and I have the best intentions. We're going to have fun no matter what. But then that phantom just kind of grips me and I just kind of lose myself, get lost in the paint.
Yeah,
I don't know.
You just start seeing red and you say, I'm so close. I would only have to step on Randy's neck for a minute.
He'll recover. It's fine.
It would be short. The thrill of winning. People play games because they love to win. We've listed it last for a reason. And hopefully if you've listened to the episodes leading up to this, then you know our stance at this point. Winning is not the most important thing when you're playing games with other people. Winning is something primal in your lizard brain at the very back. It's something that we want with this bestial part of ourselves. But if we can rise above, then we can make sure that everyone has a good time. Benjamin, could you hit again something you mentioned a couple episodes ago about how if you're in a group of 4, you shouldn't be winning all the time? Could you talk about that again and briefly kind of go over that?
Absolutely. So let's say that there are 4 of you, like there are 4 of us, like there are many times 4 players in a meta. If you are evenly matched, you should win about 25% of the time, which means you're going to lose 3 times more often than when you win. If you win twice as often as everyone else, and you're way better, you're twice as good as everyone else, and they only win 20% of the time each, and you win 40% of the time, you're still losing the majority of the time, even though you are twice as good as each other person. Basically, anytime you have a group of people, in order for that group to be healthy, you need to lose the majority of the time. You don't want to be in a group where one person wins more than half the time, because that means all of the rest of you are winning a minuscule amount of the time. And even in a 2-person meta, right? You and your significant other, or you and your best friend, or you and your only child, or whatever it happens to be. In that situation, you want the winning percentage to be as close to 50% as possible. Because if it's not, one of you is having an awful time, right? If you're dominating someone 70-30 or 80-20, sure, maybe you're feeling great, but the other person's not. And they're eventually going to lose interest, and you're going to lose the person that you're playing with.
Yeah, it's about those little victories that we talked about in teaching your game. Because winning is that primal part of our brain that we can't control, you have to have a conscious effort in making losing more normal.
Yeah, you don't try to lose.
Yeah.
But the point is you want fair competition, you want good competition, right? You want your victories to mean something. Your victories are only going to mean something if you're playing against people who have the capacity to beat you, right? I don't feel any victory whenever I beat my 2-year-old at chess. Not the slightest bit.
I didn't realize you were teaching Liliana already.
I'm not. But...
All right, Liliana, this is en passant.
Yeah. I have taught my 5-year-old.
She has a pawn in her mouth.
Yeah. I have taught my 5-year-old, and of course he can't beat me. And there have been times where my 5-year-old and my 9-year-old discuss strategy to try to beat me and still don't. You know, obviously I'm trying to teach them. There will be times where I will let them win, etc. But winning when I'm trying my hardest against them does not produce that thrill of winning. Now, I know that there are people out there, and hopefully some people listening to this podcast, who do feel that way. They feel the thrill of victory even when it's unevenly matched, even when they're the god playing against the ant, right? But and this is where what you came in to say, you need to change that perspective if you want a healthy, recurring, long-term gaming group, right? The thrill of victory, you need to start thinking of everything as I need to beat myself. I don't necessarily need to beat them. And cultivate a group where everyone wins close to the same amount of the time, not because you let them win, but because they got good. You know, you tell the scrubs to get good and then complain when they get good. No. They got good. Now you're all awesome. You know, go back to our rivalry episode if you want to see about iron sharpening iron. So
I'm really glad you said that. Start looking at every gaming session as an investment into the next session. Like, that's one of our goals when we talk about a mythical meta, is we know that there's no end in sight to our gaming group. And so we're constantly investing into what we hope the next game ends up being like. And then every game ends up really good because it's just a constant feedback loop. I don't know. I thought it was important to mention that. Like we said, this matters. Picking out the reasons why you like to play games, this introspection, it matters because now, if you've identified which of these reasons, or maybe you identify something else, you know, put it in the comments if there's a reason we didn't get to. If you've identified what it is that you get joy from, then you can start making moves toward it. If you know what you like, then you can make decisions to further that, and you can reduce your risk of disappointment. And then talk about that with your group, figure out what everyone's reasons for playing are. That way you can find the game that most accommodates all members of your group. You want everyone to be experiencing the highest, I don't know what you want to call it, the joy differential, the enjoyment quotient, something. You want everybody to be experiencing as much joy in every session as they can. And that brings us to our recurring segment each episode, News from the Warfront. So, this is a post from Reddit, from RRPG. The guy says, what's more enjoyable, a shorter but focused role-playing game, or a longer session with a lot more distractions? He says, hi, I just got done playing a 6-hour session. It was enjoyable, but we got very little done and there were lots of distractions. I've run 2-hour sessions that got through more and were more focused. And then he just asks the audience, you know what Reddit's like, you're just kind of shouting into the void. And then he just asks what's more enjoyable. What are your thoughts here? What do you guys think?
For me, I think it depends on the mood I am in. I when it starts to get like a 6-7 hours or whatever, I stop kind of caring. I'm not really invested anymore. Mm-hmm. I'm tired. Randy and I, we had another D&D group where we'd have like 6-7 hour sessions, and we decided those were doing more harm than good because we weren't getting through a lot, and we were just starting to get like tired and cranky and kind of apathetic towards the end, and we're just like, I don't care, just whatever gets us through this.
Yeah, stop paying attention.
Yeah, playing a game for too long and just mashing the button to skip through all the cutscenes because you don't care anymore. You just want to get to like a stopping
Right,
place.
yeah.
So I think if I had to choose only one, I'd choose the one that was shorter but more focused.
Okay. Randy, how about you?
I'm gonna go the opposite. I mean, what Derek said, I feel like was an extreme case that we were in. It's just people were there was too much like metagaming or just planning for every single decision.
I had games like that in college where somebody would be like, "Here, you've acquired a ring, but you don't know what it does." And we had a player in our group who was like, "Okay, I put it on, I tried jumping. Do I feel any different? Okay, I start saying all of these magic words. Like, does anything happen? I hold my hand out in front of me in a fist. Does anything happen?" And it's like,
That
oh
sounds
my,
exhausting.
doesn't it? Doesn't it sound exhausting?
Yeah, so that would definitely get exhausting. You know, whenever we're playing a game, though, like an RPG or whatever, at the table, I don't mind getting sidetracked as long as it doesn't go too long. You know, we can't go off on a tangent and then a tangent of a tangent.
Yeah.
That's when it's like, okay, let's bring it back in. We made a joke about this situation, but now you're talking about...
But now you're talking about work, or now you're talking about...
Yeah, exactly. But I enjoyed the longer session because, like I said, to me, it's you're playing the game to hang out, so I don't mind the side talk so much. Again, as long as it's not happening too often or for too long.
Sure.
You know, if we can focus for a bit, then make some jokes, you know, get a little off topic. Okay, refocus.
Yeah.
And it just depends on your group. You know, that's that session 0 discussion you need to have with your group. You know, what are their expectations?
Yeah, I totally agree.
I'm really glad. Glad Randy brought it back there at the end, is because that's exactly where I was about to go. Is yeah, different people will have different expectations, and even I do sometimes. Sometimes I'm there because I want to hang out with my friends, and that's my highest priority. And sometimes I'm there because I want to be part of a story and express myself and experience the game. And when I'm there to hang out with my friends, the story takes a back seat, right? Kind of like when we were at your birthday party and we were watching Lord of the Rings. We weren't there to really watch Lord of the Rings. We were eating, we were singing, we were chatting, right? And the movie was just on. And there was a point where I was like, I want to watch this movie. Y'all, why don't y'all shut up? In my head. And then I quickly snapped out of that and said, wait a second. No, I'm just going to hang out and have fun and do other stuff. And I just tuned the movie out at that point.
And I even made it a point at the beginning when we started the movies. I was like, session 0, here are some expectations for today. The movie will just be on, but we are just going to be like hobbits, hang out, fellowship. We're just going to eat, and then the movie will just be there as a thing that unites us, kind of.
Yeah, eat, drink, and be merry.
Yeah.
Yep.
The bad part about that plan was it's a great movie.
I know.
I was sucked in immediately.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. All my focus is on the movie.
Sorry, guys, everybody shut up. Here's my thoughts on this particular post, and it's actually the same thing that happened last time. It depends on if these people are your friends or not. I'm starting to take all of these online posts with a grain of salt. I know that people are doing a lot of just online play, where they'll find a site like Roll20 or something, or even just Reddit looking for group posts, and they'll just go in with the expectation to play the game. So here's my opinion here, is if you're in a game with your friends, then I don't mind a longer session. I certainly don't mind whenever we have our 6-hour sessions with me, Randy, Derek, my wife, Derek's wife, Randy's girlfriend, and it takes 6 hours because we eat and we catch up on what happened at somebody's work. We catch up on some gossip from somebody's family, and all of those things kind of happen throughout the game. Those are parts of the fellowship and being a good friend, is learning and catching up on what's happening in everybody's life. And usually Randy is a good DM in that he'll bring us back. And also, I think Randy knows us well enough to craft his sessions in that way.
What I was saying is I'd rather have a shorter session, but I like when I'm with y'all, I still just want to be with you. I'm just happy to spend the time with y'all. I just always feel like I don't have a lot of time to do all the things I want to do.
Yeah.
So I want to make the most out of the time I have.
Yeah.
But spending time with y'all is, a big thing of mine.
On the other hand, with this poster, if they're playing with strangers and their goal is to play the game, then yeah, I would definitely prefer a 2-hour session that stays focused on gameplay. Because if they're strangers, then I don't care about their life, and it's I feel like I'm starting to sound like a broken record here. If I'm gonna play a recurring game with somebody, then I want that game to serve a purpose of becoming a deeper friend with someone. I want that person to matter.
I was just gonna say, like, if I went to, like one of those D&D sessions that usually happen at like Comic Palooza, where they're like, hey, we're gonna have these tables running a game. If I went to that event, it's like I don't want a bunch of side talk. I want to play the game, progress the story. I want to really dig in deep and like everyone be role playing. It's like that. Because I don't want to hear these two people don't derail the whole campaign. It's like, listen, I'm only here for a couple hours. I don't need to hear about your work.
Exactly.
Like crack a joke, but then get back to the game.
There's easier places to go do that, like to go hang out and talk to strangers like that, like go to a bar or something.
Absolutely. Yeah, when time becomes a commodity, a currency that you're spending, you want it to be worth what you're putting in. So in a situation like that, where if this is an hour-long session, and then we have to leave no matter what happens at the end of that hour, then yeah, I would absolutely want to be focused on the gameplay. So I thought this was a good post because, like we've mentioned, the four of us are going to begin a game. We are going to begin a role-playing game of Mage the Ascension. I know we've already talked about how our plan is to have a session every couple of weeks on a weeknight, which means that each session might be 2 to 3 hours, maybe, in addition to continuing to record this podcast once a week, so we can kind of have a session 0 here. What would be your ideal way for us to have a 2-hour role-playing session?
I'm going to say, personally, since it is such a, it's a limited time that we're going to have to play it, and I don't want it to take forever, months and months to get any progression.
Sure.
I think, we should start the call, do our normal, hey, how you doing?
Yeah, we usually spend about 15-ish minutes catching up on how everybody's doing.
Yeah, but I feel like once we start, I personally, for this game, which, it's not normally how we play, but for this kind of a thing, I would want to keep it pretty focused on, let's do this. Let's not overanalyze a million different plans. It's like almost time ourselves, or
sure.
Put us on a okay, we have 5 minutes to talk out this plan. After that, we just need to do something.
Yeah,
because that would be awful. One, on our time, and also if we record it, the viewer's time.
Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
Interesting because I was really hoping for a more role playing centric game where it's more about the story. Okay,
It could absolutely still be role playing centric in terms of Benjamin's character is not interested in hashing out a 10-step ambush.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
No, that's right. I mean, my character's not interested in fighting at all.
Yeah, exactly.
My character definitely is. He's the hero of his own story.
I mean, that'll be great. I feel like we can make a cool story work for that. But there's also going to be tension.
Bunch of idiots.
This is going to be fun. I'm excited to do this experiment with you guys.
Yeah.
It'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it. I was going to say, I have my character sheet and Randy's character sheet I need to upload maybe tonight.
Cool.
Oh, I forgot it there. Sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah, just put it on that online form and stick it in our folder. This is going to be fun. I'm excited. Okay, with that, any final comments before we get to Benjamin's words of wisdom?
All good here?
Benjamin, take it away. Give us all an awakening.
Okay, well, we spent today talking about all the various reasons why people play games. But this is a great time to step back and realize that everyone has different reasons for everything they do. Everyone's different. Everyone has a unique perspective, not just on games, but on family, on sports, on life, on their jobs. And each of those things is valid, each of those things is important, and each of those things helps contribute to a healthy society, just like they help contribute to a healthy meta. And it's important to take not just what you appreciate about gaming, but what you appreciate about life, about work, about food, and you really learn those things about yourself so that you can take those steps to make your whole self better. And learn those things about your friends so that you can spend the better time with them, to learn their love languages, learn their special hobbies, learn the things that they find truly important. And as you find ways to come together in games through the things we talked about today, you can also find ways to come together in all aspects of life and build those really deep relationships.
Thank you so much. That was awesome.
You're welcome.
Something I remember, there was a time when I started teaching where I was really big into John and Hank Green, the Vlogbrothers. And one of their main messages, one of their main mantras is just that every human being is complex. There's lots of reasons why people do things. And so judging a person without knowing all of those complexities or motivations is a really selfish and unhealthy thing to do. And so what you said kind of reminded me of that. Recognize your own complexities here. Look at your own motivations of why you do things, not just in game playing, but then investigate those complexities in your friends, the people who you care about, so that you can understand them and create a stronger community. That was really good.
Cool. Yeah, exactly, right. Understanding others. It's a thing called Sonder. We can get into that another podcast, but everyone's living a life as complex as yours. And delving into that can really help you deepen those connections.
Awesome. All right, audience, if you have specific questions that you want us here in the meta to address, you can send us direct messages to mymythicalmeta@eldoradogaming.com. You can, of course, comment on the YouTube or audio versions of our podcast, and we would be happy to address your issues here on the cast. Like I've said the past couple episodes, this is the ground floor. If you want to get in early, if you want us to know your names, if you want to say, I knew them when, now is the time. Reach out through email or comment. Also, please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, rate, review, and share. If you have found anything we've said to be helpful or insightful, share it with somebody else. Invite them into your meta. We hope that your gaming group is always growing and improving as well. Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Bye.
Bye.
Later.
This episode was sponsored by Eldorado Gaming. Use the promo code META for 10% off your order. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share. This episode was edited by me, Travis Konishek, and our intro and outro music is by Tyler Heath of the Oh Hellos.